This video is for Dr. Amaya's TELS 3363 class, and the topic of the video is getting started on your major project. And the reason I'm creating this one, let me get something open here, is because sometimes whenever I've decided to start a project or make a proposal or begin something new, I have a hard time getting started. It's hard to get those first words on the page. It's hard to get grounded and get organized, and I tend then, if I'm not grounded, if I'm not organized, I tend to put things off. I tend to procrastinate. So I'm going to share with you one of my methods for getting started. So the first thing I want to do is open up a blank document. When you go into Word, there's all kinds of choices on things you can do, but the easiest thing for something like this, pretty straightforward, simple, organized, plain, businesslike, would be to start with a blank document. Now, if you read my example that I posted this last week, that was my example submission for part 1, then you'll know kind of where I'm going with this. And if you didn't, I suggest you read it. It's not long, it's short, and you should get through it really quickly. But because I'm going to use this same example over the next couple of weeks, it might help if you understood what I was talking about. So anyway, I'm ready to get started here. So what I'm going to do is I've decided that the project I'm doing is actually going to take a business letter instead of a memo. Now, because I work for the University of Houston and I am going to be proposing something to the University of Houston, I could have gone with a memo. However, these people don't really know me. I'm not really a part of their system. We are not acquainted with each other, and I want them to take this seriously. I want this to be formal. So even me in the role of a student, which I am for this example, I would prefer to both send and on the other end put myself in my audience's place. I believe I would prefer to receive a formal business letter. So here we go. I'm going to start off, of course, at the top of the business letter is my address. Okay, and I see I've made a mistake. We'll take care of that. Now, I can see right now, I'll hit return for a blank and then another return. I can see right now this is not formatted the way that I need it to be. I don't really want all that spacing. However, I'm going to ignore this for a few minutes, and I hope you'll see why. This is not the only way to do this, but it is the way that I do it, and I thought I'd share it with you. All right, so next comes the date, and it's funny that Microsoft Word tries to help me along. So I get that much in, and I get a prompt, so I'm going to hit enter. And then I'll space, and then it thinks, oh, she must be wanting the full address, which I do. So I'll hit enter again. Then I did not have to take the chance of making a mistake in the date. It's just right. So I'll hit return, and next comes the address of my recipient. So I identified 2 recipients in my example, and one of those is not a real person, Dr. Han. But I did go to the university website, look at the College of Technology to find the mailing address for instructors in this program. And it's generic for everybody. So I'm going to use what I found on the website and type it in here. Okay, now that I have the address entered, I'll go ahead and hit a return and then return again and type in my dear Dr. Han and colon, and then return twice. Okay, this is a good start. I have a lot of things to do, but I think I've started far enough now that I can actually do some tasks that help me set up my page. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on my keyboard, Control A. That says select all. I want everything on my page selected because I'm going to make some changes. Now, first of all, I am a fan of using styles. If you're not, I suggest you try it for this exercise, but there is no reason you should feel compelled to have to do this. But I am going to walk you through it because I find it helpful. So right now, I can tell that I have all of the text I have selected is the normal style. So I'm going to make some changes. There's a section here called paragraph with a little drop down. I'm going to click on it. And I can see that my line spacing for this paragraph is set up to be multiple at 1.08 and that it has 8 points of space after each line. That's why there's so much space here. I want to change that. I want to be in full control of everything, so I'm going to take this down to 0 and I want my line spacing to be single. There we go. Now I am controlling the line spacing. The last thing I'm going to do is right click where it says normal and I want to click on update normal to match selection. What that does is if I go down the page a few lines and start typing somewhere, whenever I hit enter, I can see that I am now single spaced, no 8-point padding below it. Everything that I type in from now on in normal style is going to use what I just set up. Well worth it to go through that step. Okay, now I'm ready to start setting up my page. And if you remember from my example that I posted, I have identified the sections that I think I will be using in my paper. Now, just because I turned that in on the first assignment doesn't mean I'm held to it. It's just my first pass idea of what 6, and in my case it was 7 sections I really believe my paper is going to be composed of. We'll see as I go along whether that turns out to be true or not. All right, so I am going to start by entering all of those section headers again with the spelling. Oops. And subsection headers. So I had in the introduction I had background, and then I'm going to put a placeholder here. Text goes here. That's my placeholder. That says that's where I'm going to put regular text. And what comes at the end of every paragraph? A blank space. So now I can put in the next section or subsection header. And text goes here, a blank space. Text goes here, one blank space. Then I have a major section header, so I'm going to do it all in caps. And then the subsection under it, goals. And I must have hit the bold. All of a sudden I'm typing in bold, so let me change that back. That was accidental. All right, so goals and objectives. Text goes here. I have a timeline. Text goes here. Measures of success. Text goes here. And finally, my conclusion. Oop. And then I, of course, will have text there. All right, what comes after that is my closing. I'm going to use sincerely. You are free to use whatever. I'm going to put 4 blank lines in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4. I need one more. To have 4 blank lines, I need to hit return 5 times. And then I'll put my name in. Be Amaya student, and then return twice because I don't want it to be associated with my name. This is something different. I'm going to put the CC, which is carbon copy, and we have the other person. Remember, I'm sending mine to 2 people. Okay, and then that is pretty much the setup all the way from beginning to end. And again, I will be making 2 copies of this. The other one will say up here, it will say Dr. Castellan there, Dear Dr. Castellan there, and send a copy to Dr. Hahn. That is to let both of these people know that the other person has gotten a copy of this. Okay, we're not quite through yet. There's a few other things I want to do, and that is I want to make the background, which is a subheader, stand out from the text. And I want the introduction, which I've shown in all caps, I want that main header to stand out from the text a little bit more. So let's start with that, the main headers. And you can see that my default up here is Calibri. Feel free to use whatever either your Word document defaults to or just whatever you choose, as long as it's not something crazy, as long as it looks businesslike. This is my default font, so I'm going to stay with it. But 11 is too small to me. I'm going to take it up to 14. Now I'm wondering if it needs a bold or not. Let's try it. I'm clicking away to look. Yeah, I kind of like that. So a bold 14, that's going to be my main header. Now I've already used normal, but here is the one I really like, heading 1. Now when I mouse over it, that changes to what it decided it should be, which is not what I want. So here's what I'm going to do. I can do it on the word itself, or I can do it up here. For this example, I'll do it on the word itself. I'm going to right click and and there is a little pop-up that comes up with the styles on it. When I click on styles, I'm looking for heading 1. And I'm going to right click again. The very top line says update heading 1 to match selection. That means convert heading 1 from this thin, large blue to the thick, bold, size 14 black that I decided I wanted to use. So I'm going to click on that. Update heading 1 to match selection. Now, if you look up here, heading 1 does look very much like that. I'm also going to click on plan now. And by the way, if you don't know, you can click and drag over, but you can also click in the left, far left here, and select a whole line at one time. So I'm going to click on plan, apply heading 1, click on conclusion, and apply heading 1. Now I've got my 3 headings noticeably different and identified in the document. Now let's do the subheadings. For this, let's go up just a little bit, maybe a 12, but still bold. Does that stand out enough? Yeah, I think so. Okay, again, I can right click here and I'm looking for this, styles. Click on it. I'm looking for heading 2. Right click, update heading 2 to match selection. There we go. Now it's stored and I can see it up here. And I can go down and apply it everywhere I want. Statement of problem is a heading. Proposed solution, goals and objectives, timeline, and measures of success. Now my page is perfectly set up the way I want. And if I decide later that I don't like one of these styles, here's the beauty of it. If I decide that this is problematic, that that I really want this to stand out a little more, maybe by using color, what I do is go find one of those examples and apply a color to it. Let's try the blue. And now apply that. Styles, right click, update, and look at that. Every heading 2 in my entire paper converted to the new style, which is blue, bold, 12 font Calibri. I love using styles. You should learn how to use those. They're just very, very powerful and helpful. Okay, that is pretty much it. By getting this much information on the page, I am now ready to begin thinking about content and begin planning out what's going in the sections. But by getting this much on the page, I've made a real start. This says I've got 76 words toward my 1,500 already written just by laying this out. So I suggest that this is a great activity for you to start with, in order for you to maybe learn a few tips and tricks about drafting not only the content that you need and the resources that you need, but also in a format that is standard, straightforward, but very businesslike. I hope this was of help, and I'll see you again soon.